Good morning. Welcome to the Creative Couch. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, you can join us every morning at 11 o'clock on eThekwini PRC. You can catch us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. My name is Nongcebo Mackenzie, and I'm your host here on the Creative Couch. Today, we are talking about lockdown, but talking about it from a different perspective. We've seen parents talking about their different experiences, the homeschooling, the having the kids all around you the whole day, and how they're coping with that under lockdown. So today we're talking parenting under lockdown. We've got our guests, mothers themselves and authors of books. We've got Noks, author of Ordained Parents, Power Tools for Purposeful Parenting. Noktul, siyabonga ukuba nathi sis.
Ngiyabonga. Thanks for having me.
In time today, met her last year at Articulate, which is a program hosted by PRC when it's not lockdown. And we were talking about mental health, and we were talking about postnatal depression. And she's the author of the book, Through the Window, How I Beat PND. That's the book that was authored by Lauren. And she's also our guest, My Diary Through the Darkest Time. It's the second edition. Lauren.
Thank you for having us.
How have you been finding parenting under lockdown? How's it been going for you?
Very challenging, but in a way that presents opportunities for growth that I hadn't anticipated, because so much is changing, and when there's change, there's opportunities to find ways to do things better. So I find like parenting in general is trial and error and error and error and error. And now there's more room for error, but at the same time, without the harsh structures around us, we've got more room for flow. And this is not working. Let's try it differently for a day or two. Oh, that's working better. Let's do this. Oh, not that way. And we're sort of changing path a lot, but able to get to a way that works best for our family.
What makes it so different? It might sound like a very odd question, but what makes it so different parenting under normal circumstances and parenting under lockdown?
I think there's a huge, huge difference. Okay, first of all, this is unprecedented, so we've got no model to follow. We've got no role models, we've got no set of rules to follow. Second of all, there's the shock aspect, because it happened very, very quickly. So we haven't really had time to digest what's happening to our lives as a whole, let alone as parents. Then there's the fear aspect. People are afraid for their health. They're afraid for their finances. They're afraid of what the world is going to be like. On top of that, we've got the overwhelm of roles. We're now trying to be the parents, but we're also trying to fill in for the teachers, as well as trying to work full-time in a different environment. Plus, we no longer have the support of the extended family system, at least in the flesh. You know, we don't have granny to help out. We don't have aunts and sisters, and these are all female. We don't have anyone, the men either. We don't have those systems. And we also, a lot of us now don't have practical support that we require in order to run our lives optimally. Some of us needed, because we work, someone else to help out with the housework and the children. And that's not there now, so we're doing all of those roles ourselves. And then on top of that, there's the isolation. And although it's only physical isolation, and tech is wonderful for getting in touch with our friends and our family, it's not the same. So to me, it's a completely different game.
Would you share those sentiments? I mean,
I do.
we were talking.
I do concur with Karen and with Lauren, excuse me. And it's such a difficult situation when you have not been aware or conscious of the parenting experts, how deep parenting is in your life, how important a parent could be in a child's life. So what happens is that now you're opening up onto all these things that are happening, gives you anxiety, gives you restlessness, and you just don't know how to face your little bully, your little carefree child. All of a sudden, because most have been at work and we don't have enough time to understand exactly who our children are and how they would want us to parent them. So initially you have a fear, you are scared. And I'm sure a lot of parents, in terms of the homeschooling as well, like for me, I was very, very skeptical about the homeschooling because I didn't know where to start. My mind and said, okay, let me first plan and understand what needs to be done before I can go and assist my child in terms of homeschooling. Everything becomes anew. So, but I said, in hindsight, it's a good opportunity because that has presented itself. So we are being recorrected, we are being reset as parents to view parenting and take parenting more seriously than we were before. So it requires us to be woke parents. So for me, it's a blessing in disguise.
You said something interesting. And I wonder, I mean, as a black girl, black woman, black mother, when you talk about how our children want to be parented, you're not going to be telling Umadlomo somewhere that her child wants to be parented a certain way.
Yeah.
So how are we shifting that? Does that dynamic need to be shifted though?
Yes, but with caution. Remember that we are our parents' reflectors. And most of our parents were baby boomers, were disciplinarians, were authoritarians, and it's their way. You have to obey. Ikwamla, mungafuni ukwenza lokho engikushilo manje nalisanga ubona ukuthi wenza njani. So we have learned that it's in our system. Now we're parents. And it's the first thing we're going to go back to. But we need to now start to move slightly away from that. You still need to have discipline. You still need to set consequences and boundaries for your children, so that if anything they don't follow your rules, then they know the consequences. And those consequences must not be linked to you as a parent. It must be about them achieving what they need to be achieving in life. So we almost need to be unlearning a lot that we have taught in the past. Our environments we grew up in were difficult. In the township, most of us didn't have our mothers because my mom is a nurse, is out at night, or my dad works at the mines, is only coming back after 3 months. So all that hurt, and neurosciences will tell you that it gets passed on to the children. But now we have to reparent ourselves first. So that's where I think we need to start. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to go back to your core and say, this is where I need to correct myself, I need to forgive. It takes time and so as I say, we need to slightly shift from that, because obviously it has been years and centuries of that values embedded in us. So you can't just all of a sudden within 35 days of lockdown, it's out of your system. So we need to be kinder to ourselves, but be open and be emotionally aware of ourselves and observe the way we communicate with our children and how they communicate back at us, and not block them because we are uncomfortable with the challenges they bring towards us. So it's very important that we slightly shift away from being authoritarians and disciplinarians, our mothers and fathers' way.
Lauren, I'm curious, simply because I am not well versed in this space. Postnatal depression. Is there a period at which a person can say it's over now? Or is it something that lingers?
So first, I want to address the fact that it's not just postnatal, because most people think it is.
Okay.
Right? It's now being called perinatal distress, not postnatal depression. It's
Okay.
still PND, so that's convenient. There's a big reason for that, though. I got PND while I was still pregnant.
Okay.
So I was thinking, well, I can't have postnatal depression because I'm not postnatal. I was also thinking I can't have depression because I am not lying in bed drooling all day, but my anxiety was going through the roof. So it was more a type of distress. And because I didn't recognize that, I couldn't get the help I needed at the time that I needed, and it spiraled out of control. So I'm on a mission to help people understand that PND is not just postnatal depression, but it can happen anytime during your pregnancy, motherhood journey. I think after 2 years, it's not linked to natal anymore. It would be a mental issue that's separate to the natal. But anywhere from pregnancy till 2 years afterwards is considered PND.
Because I'm wondering about managing your own mental health journey with children.
Yeah, so that was very, very difficult. I had 2 young kids at the time when I got sick, and it hugely affected my ability to parent. I basically couldn't. And thank God for my husband and my mother and family and friends, because they carried the load and we got through it. But it was the worst feeling in the world, not only to feel all these awful symptoms that come with mental illness, but on top of that to feel like you're a terrible, terrible mother. And that becomes a vicious cycle, because then that eats you up and makes you feel like a worse mother and a worse mother and a worse mother. And when you lose confidence as a mother, that's the rug out from under you. Now you can't do anything. You feel completely out of control and out of touch with everything, all the important things in your life. And I feel like in lockdown, there's the potential for people to be feeling in a similar way, because they have lost so much control and lost so much of the stability that their systems bring them. And now suddenly they're home with their kids all day. They're not quite sure what to do with them, how to handle them, whether they should be a little bit more permissive under the circumstances, or whether they should lock down harder and be authoritarian, and how to find that middle track. And with all the added stresses that we talked about, I think there's the potential for huge mental strain, which, if left unchecked, may lead to mental illness. And I believe that if you catch it early, there's no need to get unwell. In these times, I usually use the metaphor of a cold. If you get a little bit of a cold and you treat it, you'll recover. But if you leave it, you could get very, very sick. And I understand that in these times of COVID-19, that might be not the correct metaphor to use because of what we're going through with our health. But I think it stands that we need to take care of our own mental and physical health in order to be the best parents that we can be. Because if we get sick, physically or mentally, we're not going to be able to do what our children need us to do.
But how do you do that without all the things that help you stay on track? All the things and all the people.
Which are not there now.
Which are not there. Because, yes, you're working. If you are lucky enough to have kept your job, because a lot of people haven't been able to keep their jobs. And if you're lucky enough to be able to work from home, it's not the same, because we form relationships at work. We've got friends at work. We've got people that are support systems at work. You'll get to work and you'll tell Noktula what happened, what your child did, and she'll make you feel better about it. Or you'll go and you'll tell Lauren, because she's got a 4-year-old, and you're helping each other through parenting 4-year-old, and she's doing this now, and you share those anecdotes. And those people aren't there in the physical form now. So you don't have those outlets, whether it's for positive or negative experiences, but also they're busy with their own stuff. So the technology is there, but they're emotionally not as available as they would be. But also you don't have that space. So take, for example, somebody who canoes or paddles, and that's their, time to themselves, and it's their time to regroup, gather their scattered pieces. Your pieces are scattered now, and there's no way of gathering them. And instead, you've got 5 children running around scattering your pieces even more. How do you do that as a person?
Okay, so coming at it from a point of view of someone who, having gone through mental illness, always on the alert, I find it's important to identify both your triggers and your signs, your red flags. So, for example, if you know that a certain time of day is a trigger for you because of your energy levels are lower, I cut myself and my kids more slack during those times of day, and earlier on in the day, usually, I'm able to be a more creative, a more involved, and a stricter parent to keep them on track. Also look for your signs. I know when my breathing starts to go a little bit funny, that's the first sign for me. Left unchecked, it could escalate into full-scale panic attacks, which is what happened when I was ill. But now, I take that as a sign and say, okay, mommy needs a timeout. I must say, I put myself in timeout a lot more than I put my children in timeout.
So how does a mommy timeout work?
My kids know this. I carried a lot of guilt with my 2 elder children because I felt like I was such a terrible mother to them for a certain part of their lives. They were quite small, so I hope they don't really remember feeling neglected, but I have guilt about that, and I never want them to think that I am not okay because of them. So I'm very open about how everyone needs to take care of their own needs. We have to know what our needs are and then try to meet those and ask for help if we need it. So if you, son, are struggling with something emotionally, I will try to offer help for you. And I say, do you want love or do you want space? One of my children, for example, needs both, but he doesn't realize it at the time. He always needs space first, and then he'll come to me when he's ready for the cuddles. So we need to talk about those things, and I talk to my children about what I need, and I'll say to them, I'm having a very stressful day, this has happened, and that has happened, and that has happened. It's nothing to do with you, but I'm feeling really edgy right now, and if you ask me to help you with these things now, I'm not going to do a good job. I think I need to go take a time out and calm down, and then I can come and help
So
you.
Communication is key.
Absolutely.
Transparency is key.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, all right. And Noktula, how do you achieve this, though, within a blended family context? Because the inputs and the influences are different.
They are. The dynamics are different, and they are very sensitive most of the time, and it's delicate how you handle a blended family. But we are now in lockdown, and hopefully your blended family didn't start now. So it's something, go back.
You're making me think of something, newlyweds. You just, or your stepson just moved in, or
Exactly. It does happen, but that's a beginning. That's where we need to refer back to. And if the beginning is now, perhaps good for you, because you have time together. You
to
are
nurture
forced
it. You're forced.
You're forced to be together and nurture it and glue it together and make it work. Yes, there will be times where the emotions will go up high.
Yeah.
But I always say there is no bad emotion and there is no logic about emotions, but they are powerful, yes, they can be managed. So it's important that you start there. And communication, we can talk about it till the end of the world. And it's very important. We cannot neglect that part of communication. Communicate your spouse, like in a blended family. For instance, I had a child, a daughter. My husband had two sons, and then we had one child together, a daughter together. So we have 4 children.
And you all live together?
And we all live together. So it was everything instant, but what we managed to do, and I think that's one thing we did well, was that we approached them as a rock solid, as a unit, when we go to our children. But being sensitive for the fact that they won't just all of a sudden love me. They won't just all of a sudden give me time or attention.
You need to give that relationship time to grow.
I need to give that relationship time to grow. At the same time, I need to be open and communicative to them. I need to be at a democratic level with them and not become overpowering and domineering over the children. Remember, I made my decision. My husband made his decision of us getting together and getting married. They still need to think about it. Like they need time.
Would they have picked this mom if they were given the choice?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to be sensitive about it.
It's interesting because we think that would only happen with children that are stepchildren or whatever, however it is that they come to be in your life. But one of the things we were talking about earlier is that your own biological child might not necessarily be the match for you.
Exactly.
And maybe given another option, we might not want to admit it. They wouldn't pick you as mom.
They wouldn't pick you if
they had the
given you a choice. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very important then to observe. I always say you observe. What Lauren was saying was that she knows herself. She knows her triggers. She has observed herself through her peaks and troughs. And it's important that you understand yourself and then you observe your. So from behavior, try and instill some values. And then from values, you eventually form this beautiful culture, family culture. So let's say if you are a father and you are absent, now it's lockdown, you're not supposed to be out if you're not an essential service provider. And then that's a behavior that you're displaying to your children. And that is values of rebellion and
so if you're going to go during lockdown and you're going to go at 6 p.m. for a run when it's not allowed, you're teaching your children to disobey the law.
Exactly. So it's all those things, and then that's the value that you're instilling in your children, basically.
But what I then want to ask, Lauren, is how do you separate, because we're still separate entities. Before you are so-and-so's mother, you are Lauren. Before you are so-and-so's daughter, you are Lauren. Before you're so-and-so's husband or wife, you are your own self. Now, the pressure now during lockdown to be, because if your children, and you say to your children, I mean, my weakness is sweets, and I've got to control the sweet consumption. And while people are in the bedroom watching TV, with my back faced to you, shoveling sweets in my... You can't have sweets. It's a small example. There are big things at stake now. And to now maintain that sense of integrity, and we all have little rules that we break now and again. It's not just about breaking the law. Little things that you'll say to your kids, never swear, and then your boss irritates you and under your breath, things like that. Now you have to do this 24/7, 7 days a week, until lockdown is over. Maintaining your sense of self while still being a good parent.
It's a lot of pressure, and it can be very emotionally overwhelming. On the bright side, we want to teach our children to grow up to be creative and resilient, and this is a wonderful opportunity to model that for them. However, it can get too much. And You mentioned the word integrity. I think that is so key, because if you don't keep yourself integral and whole, you cannot be the best parent, wife, daughter, mother, etc. So for me, it's about putting on your own oxygen mask first. If you're on a plane and the oxygen drops, if you don't put your own mask on first, you will pass out before you have finished putting your child's mask on, and you can both die. It may sound an extreme comparison, but emotionally, you absolutely have to, and it's very difficult, because I think a lot of us as mothers struggle with this idea of selfishness and how can I put my own needs before my children's? And when my children are still awake and needing me to, make them food, and it also depends on their age. Obviously, mine are a little bit older, and it does change a little bit. Mine are 7, 9, and 11. However, having parented through toddlership with mental illness, I very well remember that it is extra overwhelming when they can't understand what's going on. However, even then, they can still understand mommy's sad but not with you. Mommy loves you, but mommy needs to have a nap now so she can feel better. That'll also teach them that when they're not feeling good, what does mommy do when she's not feeling good? Maybe I need to nap. Maybe I need to eat something.
I once read something, it's slightly different, but I think it can be contextualized, where it was talking about, I'll paraphrase, but it was talking about how the way that you show your child love now is what they then learn that love is, and it's what they will therefore look for going forward in their lives, in their life. So if you are the kind of person that shows love with a lot of hugs, that's what they think is love, and they will look for the hugger in their life and say, that's love. And I think we can contextualize that to loving yourself and maintaining your sense of self in this period, or any other period really, that, you know what, when I'm not coping, this is what my mom used to do. So this is what I'm going to do, because I could see that it worked for her, and this is the pattern that we developed, and I think it can be helpful in that way.
Look, there are different love languages and lots of different coping strategies, and not all will work for everyone, and your child may find other things helpful. But what I do think is important is to model self-care, because I think it's very unfair to expect your children to be 100% perfect, calm, and in control every minute of their life. It's not realistic.
We are not in control every minute of our lives.
Exactly, but that's the point. To me, it's valuable for them to see when we are not in control. And
so are we doing a disservice to our kids? And
we need to show vulnerability.
Strong black women, you know how we are.
You need to show
mom never cries, mom is strong, mom keeps it glued together. Are we doing a disservice to our kids when we do that?
We are doing a huge disservice, because
but then how do we?
There is something that is called childhood emotional neglect. And that term was coined mainly because these issues talk about emotions and feelings, and they help you dissect what is wrong from the happening, a happening or an event, from the feeling. And you understand, you name, you label your feeling, and you set boundaries and rules for yourself and consequences, and you reinforce whatever that you set for yourself, and say, I skipped the red robot because I was on my phone. I'm just making it's a bad one, but you need to correct yourself in saying that, I feel bad about it. I'm sad about it. I am hurt because my car was damaged. And then the next step is you set the boundaries for yourself. I'm putting my child in jeopardy. And then the way down to where you try and of intimacy and self-love. You need to understand your emotions and show your vulnerabilities where there is a problem
with your children.
With your children. And you need to show those vulnerabilities so that they can learn from you, because most of the time we model, as Lauren was saying, we model. Most of the time our children learn from observing. what we do.
What's interesting about what Noktula is saying is, and I've never thought of it this way before, whenever you were talking about boundaries, it's boundaries so that Lauren doesn't violate me. It's a boundary so that Noktula doesn't violate me. And you just said something very interesting about setting boundaries for yourself with yourself.
Yes.
I will not do this because it then causes this within me and for the people around me. Is that quite important?
I heard a beautiful phrase recently. A boundary is the distance at which I can love both you and myself.
Yeah.
And to me, that's gorgeous. Nokutula was saying about vulnerability. To me, that is the thing. We do model for our children, and this is a perfect opportunity to model that vulnerability, which they are no doubt feeling. They're also completely out of the loop now, and they need to learn how to cope with those feelings. And I would just want to add one more. Now is a wonderful time to model saying, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I've found myself many times lately doing the trial and error route. And I've had to say to my kids sometimes at the end of the day, sorry, that really didn't work out how I wanted it to. And that teaches them how to forgive.
Very true.
How to forgive me, how to forgive themselves and others. And it also teaches them that if they make a mistake, they can make it right. But how to do that?
What I ask myself is, are we able to register that that's not an overnight process? Because if Noktula accidentally, if I get up now and as I walk past, knock her hairstyle and mess it up, I'm going to say sorry. But if she comes to me and she says, you know what, I didn't like the way you spoke to me. I found it hurtful. I didn't like your tone of voice. You can be like, well, if you hadn't started it, and to do that now with our kids,
It's
if
humbling.
we can't do it with our peers, how possible is it for us to do it with our kids? And let's say that then resonates with the person and they say, you know what, I'm actually going to do this. Lauren is making perfect sense. And you are. It's important. I mean, how else are kids going to learn to apologize? Then we think, I'm going to be able to do it perfectly each and every time tomorrow. And I remember somebody was saying this in the context of marriage, saying that the mistake that couples make when they get married, or when they're married and they discuss an issue, I don't like it when you do this. They think it will take one conversation, and they don't realize that it will take many conversations. Do we grant ourselves the grace to have that many conversations with ourselves? Sure, but I didn't want to say sorry, I'm being stubborn, and I need to fix that stubbornness with myself so that my child can learn to say sorry.
No, it's about choices. The first choice is the most sort of intellectually driven. I'm read about this, I've heard about it on TV, I'm now going to give this a try. And I'm going to make a choice that the next time I have an available opportunity, 5 minutes, I'm going to say I'm sorry for something, to model it for my children. And then later this evening, you have a shorter temper, you're going to miss an opportunity, you're going to shut them instead. You can think about that, you can always go back an hour later and say, listen, I'm sorry. This is what I was actually trying to achieve. It didn't work. I'm sorry. And for younger children, lots of cuddles and kisses, maybe even a sweetie or two to sweeten the deal. Older ones, you can have more of a discussion about how things work.
Yeah.
But it's a conscious decision every time. And during these very stressful circumstances, what happens is when we get overwhelmed emotionally, we are not able to make good decisions. And we don't make our choices that well, which is why it is so important for us as parents to make sure that our oxygen masks are on ourselves first, to make sure that our basic emotional and physical needs are met so that we can make the good choices.
Ladies, this is such an important conversation. I wish we had more time to explore it, but what I do like is that in both your books, you've got tools for success, for parenting success. So we were chatting to Lauren Shapiro. She is the author of My Diary Through the Darkest Time. I like that. Through the Window, How I Beat P&D, My Diary Through the Darkest Time. I think it gives like perfect insight into what the book is about. And yeah, I really, that really catches me. Lauren Shapiro, our guest on the Creative Couch. There are, I mean, I would have loved to read the beautifully marked excerpts, just so that our viewers at home can, well, our viewers wherever, can get an insight into the book. But it does have some bonus material and resources that we can help. And I took a quick squiz through Noktula Xulu's book, Ordained Parents, Powerful Tools for Purposeful Parenting. So in as much as we do need to wrap up our conversation, this book and this book will definitely help you in your parenting journey, not just through lockdown, not just through and during lockdown, but something that you can keep on referring to. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much to you ladies. Thank you for your wonderful work. Thank you for joining us. Mapaloba will be with you at 2:30. Remember to tune in at eThekwini PRC, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Have a great day.